Most people hear the name MK Ultra and immediately picture a certain scene. Conspiracy forums, urban legends, secret experiments, LSD hallucinations, government agents gone off the rails. A bit exaggerated, a bit out there. And most people stop right there. But the truth is this. The real story, the documented one, is far more disturbing than the legends. Because MK Ultra wasn't a mind control experiment born out of paranoia. It wasn't madness. It definitely wasn't science fiction. It was colder, more calculated, and disturbingly familiar. It was a business model, a state-backed, multi-million-dollar operation, and it was trying to answer one simple question. If you can shape how people think, can you control how they act? And the real issue started right there. If you can control behavior, what does that mean for governments, markets, economies, and every system built on human behavior? To truly grasp MK Ultra, we need to look at the world that produced it. Let's go back to the early 1950 seconds. Back then, the global economy wasn't fully globalized yet, but fear already was. The Korean War had just ended. American POWs were coming home, but something felt off. Some were making strange confessions. They were praising communism. It was as if something in their minds had been torn out and rewired. At the same time, rumors were spreading. The Soviet Union was experimenting with hypnosis and drugs. China was running ideological re-education programs. Propaganda was becoming a weapon as effective as artillery. The Cold War wasn't just a military race. It was a psychological war. And in Washington, inside the CIA headquarters on E Street, an idea took root. If the mind can be broken, maybe it can be controlled. And if it can be controlled, it can be used. In 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles approved a program called MK Ultra. From the outside, it looked like a research program. From the inside, it operated like a covert operation. But at its core, it was an investment. A massive, uncontrolled portfolio of experiments funded with secret budgets with almost no oversight. Over the next 20 years, MK Ultra grew. Official records list 149 sub-projects, but no one knows how many were lost to history. The CIA funneled money through front organizations and fake foundations. Prestigious universities thought they were receiving research grants, but in reality, knowingly or not, they became part of one of the most unethical projects in American intelligence history. The methods: high-dose LSD without consent, sensory deprivation, hypnosis, electroshock, repatterning, isolation, psychological breakdown. If there was a boundary, it was crossed. If there was a rule, it was ignored. The CIA wasn't asking, "Is this right? Is this moral?" It asked only one thing: could it work? But the real point, the part people rarely talk about, is this. MK Ultra wasn't just about torture or control. This was directly about economics. Because beneath all the madness, there was one belief. Human behavior can be engineered. And if behavior can be engineered, then markets can be engineered too. Geopolitics too. Economies too. This is where the story stops sounding crazy and starts feeling disturbingly familiar. While MK Ultra ran in the dark, corporations in the light were chasing the same questions. Madison Avenue was rewriting advertising from the ground up. Behavioral psychology was becoming a tool of persuasion. The post-war consumer economy was exploding, and companies wanted to know, why do people buy? What do they choose? What do they stay loyal to? One world was covert, the other was commercial, but the question was the same. How do we influence decisions? Step back, and the big picture becomes clear. MK Ultra wasn't an isolated madness. It was the dark face of the rising science of persuasion, manipulation, and behavioral engineering. And to really understand that, you have to look at MK Ultra's architecture. The money trails, the institutions, the incentives. Because then you see it. The intelligence world and the market were learning from the same playbook. The CIA didn't run this alone. It outsourced. It used contractors. It brought in outsiders, professors, psychiatrists, chemists, neuroscientists, doctors, Harvard, Stanford, McGill, dozens of hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, even prisons. The CIA didn't just build a program. It built a shadow research economy. Millions of dollars flowed under the label behavioral research. Pharmaceutical companies supplied experimental compounds. Hospitals tested new methods of treatment. Professors were quietly encouraged to push ethics aside in the name of results. And this system made one thing crystal clear. When institutions chase influence, money moves fast. The goal wasn't only to see if the mind could be broken. It was to see if it could be predicted, directed, weaponized. Because prediction is the foundation of every financial system on Earth. If you know how people will behave, you can control everything built on behavior. Markets, politics, advertising, belief, loyalty. That was the real arms race. The Soviets pursued influence through ideology, China through group pressure, the CIA through chemistry and psychology, corporations through marketing, media, and data. This wasn't a search for mind control. It was a search for behavioral leverage, the most valuable economic resource there is. And to see how MK Ultra turned into something bigger than itself, we have to look at the projects that defined it. Project Midnight Climax, safe houses in San Francisco and New York. CIA operations, where sex workers dosed unsuspecting people with LSD, while agents watched from behind mirrors. Sub-Project 68 Inches Montreal, Dr. Ewan Cameron. Psychedelic drugs, electroshock, psychic driving. The goal: erase a personality and rebuild it. Prisoners, mental patients, soldiers, students. No one was told the full truth. These weren't accidents. They were investments measuring how far behavior could be pushed before it broke. Pull the thread a little further, and you see it. MK Ultra was the collision point of fear, ambition, science, and money. And right here, the line between intelligence and economics starts to disappear. The CIA was chasing psychological control for geopolitical gain. The private sector was chasing psychological persuasion for profit. Over time, the methods began to overlap. While the CIA tested LSD without consent, Madison Avenue tested emotional triggers. While the CIA pursued behavioral modification, corporations developed targeted advertising. One used secrecy, the other used strategy. But both learned the same thing. Behavior can be shaped. And here's the critical realization. MK Ultra didn't fail. It just changed form. In 1973, the files were burned. Because if it had all been exposed, the government's legitimacy would have taken a brutal hit. But the knowledge didn't disappear. The incentives didn't disappear. They just moved into different hands. The drugs faded out. Algorithms took over. Hypnosis faded out. Screens took over. Force faded out. Habits took over. Today, no one is controlling your mind by force, but someone is deciding what you see, what you notice, and what you start to accept as normal. And markets? Markets don't move on logic. They move on emotion, fear, expectation, stories. Today, the most valuable thing isn't oil. It isn't gold. It isn't even data. It's attention, belief, behavior. MK Ultra's biggest lesson is this: the most valuable asset in the world isn't money. It's consent. And consent isn't won in the marketplace. It's won in the mind first. History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but incentives do. And every system competing for power eventually invests in shaping behavior. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.